Ebenezer, hitherto the Lord has helped us. Uncle Bob Young and Dr. Gene Young, August 2024, dedicated to those health workers who have served sacrificially in Saboba, Northern Region, Ghana since 1948. When Jean was 11, God called her to be a missionary. Never underestimate the faith of a child or the ability of God to call them to ministry when they are young. Jeremiah 1:4-5 says, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Bob's call was totally different. Bob accepted Jesus at the age of 37. Bob once told his younger brother that he could never be a missionary. Then Amos answered Amaziah, "I am no prophet nor a prophet's son, but I am a herdsman and a dresser of sycamore trees. And the Lord took me from following the flock, and the Lord said to me, Go prophesy to my people Israel." Amos 7:14-15. But in 1986, Bob returned from a short-term mission and said it's time to go to the mission field. Each of us was called to the mission field in a different fashion. God does not make cookie-cutter saints. If God has called you to a work, that calling is still there. God's gifts and calling can't be taken back. Romans 11:29. When we first heard about an opportunity in Ghana, we had to ask where Ghana was. We first served in Kumasi, the second largest city in Ghana, one-third of the way up the country. We learned some Twi, the most commonly spoken language in Ghana. Bob ministered to police and firefighters while Jean worked in a large government hospital. We spent 2 years in Kumasi and returned to the U.S., but God wanted us in Ghana. We returned to Ghana in February 1992 to look at the Assemblies of God clinic in Saboba, Northern Region. We had no intention of coming. Saboba was a remote, small town on the Togo border with terrible roads, no electricity, and a very small health center building and 11 workers. But God had other plans. When we stepped out of the vehicle onto the old mission house yard in Saboba, the Holy Spirit wrapped us like a warm blanket, and suddenly we were coming to Saboba. Where is Saboba? We're at the end of 3 roads. It's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here because we're very nearly into the country of Togo. We moved into Saboba in January 1993 and lived in the old mission house. Mud brick, aluminum roof, no running water, no electricity apart from a small generator, lots of termites of all sizes. Jean began treating people, however, it took nearly a year to set up the operating theater. Ironically, the impetus for establishing the theater came when a small tribal war broke out, and Jean was suddenly the only doctor for more than 100,000 Kunkumba tribesmen who had nowhere else to go. 2 years before we came to Saboba, a gifted OR nurse, Charles Talon, had moved back to Saboba because he believed that God was going to send a surgeon there. Where did we get the equipment? How did we sterilize things without electricity? Much of our equipment came from our first mission project, equipment we had gotten from a MASH unit hospital after it had been donated to the Boy Scouts in Kewanee, Illinois. We sterilized things in a huge pressure cooker over a coal pot on the veranda with a theater worker fanning the coal pot. Our first operating table was a folding table from that MASH unit. The old mission house and the clinic building we met in 1993. The old mission house, this is a very old photo. It has a thatched roof. By the time we got there, it only had an aluminum roof. But the clinic building was a U-shaped building that had dirt and grass in the middle of it. We spent 3.5 years in Soboba and then went out for Jean to do her master's in public health at Tulane. When we returned in 1998, we worked in one small clinic and then at the West Gunja Hospital in Damongo for 5 years. Sometimes God will send you on detours so that you can learn things. Jean learned a lot about hospital administration at Damongo. God's delayed isn't his denial. Time doesn't mean God's denying you, it means God's preparing you. We returned to Soboba in February 2004. There had been no doctor for nearly 2 years. The administrator was struggling with huge problems. The clinic was heavily in debt. A new health insurance scheme was taking off, attracting huge numbers of patients, some of whom were just trying to see what they could collect. We were seeing 270 people a day with 3 consultants. Jean was consulting, operating, and taking night call. Bob was repairing hospital equipment and vehicles. Only the grace of God kept us going. God allowed us to lift the debt by November. Bob found himself repairing things for the technical school as well as the hospital. Through the years, Bob has fixed BP cups, plumbing, oxygen concentrators, washing machines, electrical outlets, and a host of other devices. Bob's nickname is One Man 1000. Today, things are far better at the Assemblies of God Hospital, Soboba. In 1993, we had 18 workers. Now we have 214. In 93, we had 37 beds, a small lab, a small OR, and 1 consulting room, plus a small public health unit. Now we have 134 beds with a children's ward, a female ward, a small maternity ward, a men's ward, a NICU, a separate operating theater, an eye clinic, a dental clinic, a public health unit, a pharmacy, and an expanded laboratory. Our lab does PCR testing for COVID as well as for TB and dengue. We run routine lab tests, and we have 2 biomedical scientists, 5 diploma lab technicians, and 2 certified lab assistants. In 1993, Jean consulted with 2 nurses. Today we have 3 doctors and 4 physician assistants with 3 more PAs completing training. We released 1 PA to head our sister clinic in Nakpanduri, 80 miles to the north of us. In 1993, we had 1 midwife who deserted during the northern ethnic conflict, leaving Jean and 1 nurse to do all the deliveries. Today we have 6 midwives with diploma-level training and 7 with BSc in midwifery. We also have specialty nurses, and 1 doctor is doing his housemanship. Shepard Tinab is now our eye nurse, and we are training Gordon Dubik as the second eye nurse. We are training Minani Ali as an ENT nurse. We had an ENT nurse who deserted for greener pastures. We are training David Yakpa and Ethel Wango as theater nurses. Idrisu Adam and Abu Kwabana are our dental nurses. Musa Binyam is our pediatric nurse, now heading our children's ward, while Sayadu Pintu, a second pediatric nurse, heads our NICU. John Udamar, Joseph Nanunja, and Dennis Mindo are our nurse anesthetists. In the beginning, we used injection ketamine or local anesthetic for all operations. We had no anesthetists. Dr. Benjamin Gido is doing housemanship and will join us in 2025. And also, Michael Jayun is training as an intensive care unit nurse.